I went to the pursuit of truth. So just wanted the back of the last one to do with the ehcp plan and Aleena's help letter. Yeah, it's really depressing, to be honest, this time at the moment, because we were sent like a draft of the ehcp plan, which the educational psychologist had given. I guess they're the ones who actually really write it, and it's strange. The process is really rubbish because it is sort of incumbent upon you to sort of you and that person to work it out. You'd think that they would have. Well, I would have thought they would use the teachers a bit more, because it's the teachers that are skilled in teaching, and it's their school, and they should be best placed to know exactly what Aleena needs, or what she's failing on, so they can tell her, well, this is what they're failing on, this is what we need help with. And the educational psychologist, I don't know whether the psychologist is the best person to write an ehcp plan. I don't know, because, well, the fact that she thought that the teacher could do it when the teachers have been struggling to do it doesn't make sense to me, but maybe that's just part of the process. But now, the thing that we found out, the other problem with the time frame is to do with this draft that's sent. So it was sent to us, we read through it, we had 15 days to be able to do it. Everything's timed within the ehcp plan. It has to be 20 weeks, 6 weeks here, 6 weeks there, for different people to respond and give their evidence. So 15 days I had. I took a few days, read it over the weekend, I sent it back, and I've told you about this all before. And the thing we didn't like is that we discussed that we wanted, because what the school said is that they don't have the funds, don't have the teacher. The main teacher cannot deal with all the 30 children and Aleena. So we need someone specific, a teacher for Aleena who's advanced in autism. We said this to the educational psychologist, which only partly of that seems to be written in the report. Not a great deal of what I've just said, the specificness of it. So that was one of the points we felt that needed correcting, because this plan, it can only be reviewed in another year's time. Aleena's already lost 1 year. We don't want her to lose any more time. And the other point was that the training that has to be done, we wanted it to have a specific date, like the 3rd of September, so they get time now to do it, not while Aleena's there, that they get training while they're on the job, like they do with the Senko. You've got 3 years to do this course, and if you fail it, then what? You've been teaching someone that you failed a course, and it makes no sense. It has to be immediate. So that's what we wanted to add in. And also about the sensory room. In her report, she said it's needed. In the draft, it said it would benefit. So those are the only 3 points. It doesn't take that long to read through that, because the 15 days that we had already passed, and we've gone into the next week now, and still nothing back. And so I was asking the SEN person who's doing this, who we have contact with, and they were saying that there's no statutory date for them to reply back to us, because it's not obligatory upon them. Well, then why do we have a draft? Why do we have this draft process that asks the parents, that asks us, do we agree? And we said no. And these are the points that were made. The amendments, the review, So we had 15 days. Why don't they have 15 days? Why is there no timescale for them? It's another example of where this system has been made for institutions and not the parents, not for Aleena, not for the actual people, because everyone else has a time frame except this part. So what that basically means is they don't really want you to make any amendments, because if they did, they'd have a time frame set for that. Maybe that would, if they told me that before, that it could take 8 weeks, 8 months, or a year before this would change, I probably wouldn't have done it. I assumed there would be a time frame. I assumed that the person doing it cared about Aleena or the job that they're doing, and would just read through it straight away. It's just 3 points. It doesn't take that long. It's not like me. I had to read through appendices and reports and all sorts of things, but I still did that in 3 days. And I know I'm not an educational psychologist with loads of children to have to do this job with, but it's just 3 points. I know they're probably going to deny them anyway. So now I'm asking the ISEN person about this, and they're saying that but it was sort of very unclear in their sentencing. But to me, it seemed like they were suggesting that it's already taking place, despite the amendments, and we can wait. The amendments will get added in later, if they are approved. or you can wait because they can change in a year's time. That's when you can next do it. I'm like thinking, well, no. So then I wanted clarification on this because it sounded like it's already going ahead. So I wanted clarification. So that means we've effectively agreed and it is going ahead, and they said yes, it's going ahead already. So even though we didn't agree upon it, even though we're asked as parents, do you agree with this draft? It doesn't matter that you said no and you have amendments that you want to change because it's going ahead anyway. And if the educational psychologist, I don't know, whenever gets round to reading my 3 points and say accepts or denies, then they'll add it in afterwards. But then I do wonder if the school accepts the child based on that draft and then it changes and it's, a big difference, then can they say, well, no, we're not going to take aleena anymore? I mean, it just seems like, how can you have... So the draft is actually the final now, despite us disagreeing with it and trying to make amendments. Or because they didn't set a time scale for the educational psychologist to check these amendments and either approve or deny. Why was that bit forgotten? Why is there a time scale for everything else but not that? It just makes me like want to scream. It's just, I hate, I don't know if it is the autism in me, if that is what I've got. With time, I hate that. It really makes me anxious and, having to wait for people. I answer straight away when I can. But loads of people, like, I'm still waiting for on my own MP. It didn't get, she may be busy. Like last time she said, oh, well, your MP is busy with the homeless. So your thing doesn't, because yours is policy. Well, yeah, but why is there no automatic reply like all the other MPs have? Because I don't know whether the email's gone through or not to ask for the PMQs. I assume there's only 2 more PMQs before the politicians act like children and have 6 weeks summer break. I don't know why politicians have their thing as like children. They get the 6 weeks holiday. So I don't know. So probably that PMQ that I asked. Well, I don't know whether the MP would accept would be brave enough to ask a question like that in the first place. Even though it's not her, she can say it's coming from me. It's not coming from her. I want her to say it in my voice. This is my constituents' feeling. How do you respond to that? That's democracy, isn't it? I would hope that she would ask it and then we could see. But it's just today is like such a terrible day like that. And then the mortgage thing's gone to 6%. And I'm still having to wait to 180 days, which is next month. And before that, there might be another bank change. And I noticed the Barclays, who I have my mortgage with, have already checked that they changed their trackers already. They've gone up a few percent more. It's not quite 6% yet, but it was going, I think, from 5.4 to 5.7 or something like that. Who knows by August what it's going to be up to. It's just like, I can't take all this waiting, and it's just so unfair that if my, well, not unfair, but if my mortgage at 180 days was last month, I could have got, still would be 5%, but at least it's been better than 6%. All those percents count when you're talking about thousands of pounds, or hundreds of thousands of pounds, I say. I don't know. It's just, life is so complicated. Very complicated. I don't know how I'm handling it, to be honest, because I don't think I'm that great at worldly things, but there's just a lot of stress to have to sort of go through all the time. I don't know what toll it will have on my body eventually. Although I suppose my body's used to stress. I've stressed for quite a long time now, so maybe it's used to that. But I do worry about, I do try not to stress, but it's very difficult because all these finite things that you have to do, having to struggle for aleena to, I want that, my understanding is like, get it right first time, that's how I think, it's important, especially when you know that aleena's lost out a whole year through the graduated process that takes 4 terms before they can apply for ehcp by gathering evidence that they could have gathered in the first 6 weeks. Knowing that she's lost out that year, then so I wanted that draft, the final, to be, what we all agreed. But this is the problem when you have someone and you're speaking to that person, they're making the notes and they're the one who have all the power. So they can choose which parts of what you said they're going to go with. That seems so unfair, isn't it? But that's the way it is. That's the way with all these things, you know, as we all find out over life, that people only write down what they want to write down, and ignore all the other bits. Same as like with all these MPs that I've written to, they all ignored my open letter, you know, from Labour, Conservative, from Sakir Starmer, to use his title, from Rishi Sunak, from the Department of Education. I think the Shadow replied something, isn't it? The Shadow Education, I think it was the only one who replied something. But was it them? I don't think it was even them. It was probably one of their assistants saying that this person's busy and we'll pass it on, or something like that. Department of Education, yes, they did come back, and the Sussex County Council and the school itself. But most of them were sort of saying, well, this is what we do. The school, you know, saying that, well, we can't change the system. This is how it is. They use the word fail, you know, that you have to fail to be able to get EHC plan. So it's just all this stress of these things. And then the mortgage and the electricity as well, the tariffs are coming up. Electricity is going to be hundreds of pounds more than it was. You know, the same thing that you've been using is more expensive, even though the same, intrinsically, the same thing is exactly the same. All the processes are exactly the same, but for some reason now you have to pay more for it. Even though they're using the same generators, same power stations, same cables, then it's the same electricity. I don't know how, like, especially with electricity. With gas, I get it, because you have to go and buy the gas, or you have to, you know, yeah, assume they are importing the gas, so maybe it's expensive, but I'm assuming they're not importing the electricity. Are they? I don't know. Isn't it being generated by the same power station, and therefore how is it more expensive? I suppose they're passing on the costs of that they are incurring for manufacturing it, and then we're paying for it. There's just all these extra things, and even if your wage does go up, it goes up by a few pounds. It doesn't go up by the hundreds of pounds that are needed for this 8% inflation rate. Meaning, I mean, you'd need what to cover all these gas, electricity, mortgages, and food all going up. Your wage would have to almost like double to actually cope with all of those extra amounts. Because when you think about it, like the mortgage is an extra a month, could be an extra £500-600. Electricity, £50 to £100 a month with gas, say, although gas is coming down now. The food, that could be an extra £100. So if you had all those, that's like £600, £700, £900 you'd have to get every single month. Well, no one's going to give you that kind of wage increase. So even if they do give you a wage increase, and then it makes inflation go up more, and then the Bank of England has to put the interest up to counterbalance that, then you didn't actually, then you're even worse. This is so stressful, life. But this is the system that we all choose to. We all know that, you know, anyone who goes through the system. Obviously, when you're young, you don't go through this, and when you get to this stage of life, and then you have all these things, and you have to fight for this, you have to fight for that, you have to try and bargain for that, move this, do that, all these things constantly on your head, waiting for things. You know, when this time will come, and all these other things up and down, causing you mind chaos. And that'll be the title of this one, Mind Chaos, yeah. And then that's the system, yeah, that we've all decided to choose, to stress ourselves out like this. And that, no wonder people end up committing suicide, because it seems so terrible and so stressful, and so like, you just want your head to explode into a million Lego pieces. But that's the life we've all chosen to live, to put ourselves under this undue stress. When all these things, all these resources, gas, electricity, all these things, even human resource, is all free. It's all freely been given. But we've decided to put price tags on it, and then caused all this construct of causing all this stress and unnecessary things, and causing, because of borders, wars, and all sorts of other things. Whereas if we just had the concept of, we're all here, everything around us is free, no one can own nothing, it's all of ours, and let's just work together to get all these things done. all this electricity, oh, it's all there free for us. All this gas, it's all there free for us. All we have to do is get it to each other, and that's it. And all these houses we can build for each other. All this infrastructure we can build for each other. All the resources that are all around us free. And we're all free as well. Everything can be free. Why weren't we living that life? Take care, take it easy, God bless, and peace.